Welcome to the Budget Mechanic. My name is Michelle and I'm here to help you with all your budgeting needs. Whether you're looking to start a budget from scratch, doing a tune-up on a budget you may have, or you think it might be time for a major overhaul to help you accomplish what you need to do, we can do that with you here at the Budget Mechanic. In this video today, we're going to look at how you can start budgeting with the money you have right now until you get more money coming in. We're not going to look back at historical averages. We're not going to look back to find out what your average pay was over time. That is a great way to go and build a budget, but it can be overwhelming for a lot of people. Where do I get all this information? How do I figure out the averages? I'm just so overwhelmed. I'm going to give up and I'm not going to budget. So we're going to simplify it by starting with what you have today and building your budget from that. Okay, and then as we move forward every week, we'll start building on what we've learned. Once you're comfortable, you can jump to the next step and start to build out your budget and look at it and make serious considerations about what you want to accomplish with the money you have. If you want to follow along in this tutorial, you're going to need a few different things. You're going to need a pen and a pencil. Pencil becomes very important. You'll also need just a blank slide of paper. Any kind of paper works. You'll also need a calendar. So I've printed out a calendar and put some dates and key events on it. It has to be a calendar where you can track out your paydays and any of your bills and expenses, as well as major events that are happening that will cost you money. Optionally, you may want to include some index cards that we'll use for tracking and envelopes. So feel free to pause this video and go collect those items, and then we'll get started. All right, now we're ready to begin. So now that we have the information here, we're going to start by writing the date on the top of the paper. So that is today's date. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to write how much we have in checking. So 1,381 is what I have, and our savings, which is 1,200, for a total of $2,581. So that's the first thing you're going to do. List out all of the checking accounts that you have, all of your savings accounts that you have. Now this is all about the cash you have. So if you actually have physical cash in your hands, make a total amount of that. We're not looking at anything around investing or any of the accounts that you're not going to use to pay bills with. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put 4 columns. So we're going to write in expense. We're going to have a budget column. We're going to have a spent and a balance. Now don't worry about the spent and the balance yet. Those we will talk about when we finish off and go to budget on the next payday. So we can just cover those up for now a little bit and bring our calculator in that we'll need shortly. So to start budgeting, we're going to budget out the things that we need. Now, in our savings account, we may have done some work already. So we want to show that we have some savings. So maybe we've worked on an emergency fund already. We're starting to it. So we're going to put an emergency fund. And let's say we have some vacation money there from vacations that have been canceled due to COVID. So we're going to write those in there. Then we're going to go through and find out all of the mandatory bills that we need to pay before the next payday. So that's where the calendar comes in, and we're going to look at the calendar. Today is the 27th, and we'll look at the next one is the cell phone. So we'll put the cell phone on our list and we'll put the date. Now that'll help when we start building our budget out in the future. Now we're not going to put any amounts yet. We're going to write down all of the things that we have to do. The next thing we have is the bus pass. So we take public transportation. So we're going to write the bus pass and the date, which is the 30th. And then I'm going to flip to the next month. And I'm going to look on, we have rent on the 1st. And then I'm going to put birthdays at the end. We're just going to do our mandatory. So next thing we have is our utilities. And that's on the 7th. And then we don't have any other utilities or mandatory, which I've made in green here just for showing on here, until our payday on the 11th. Now, the other thing that we know we're going to need are some groceries. So we're going to put groceries on our list and no date because it'll depend on when we want to buy groceries. Now we're going to put the 2 birthdays here, or the birthday and Mother's Day. So we'll add those. And we're going to conclude them as separate lines for now. And then we'll eventually work to how we could group different line items together and start to think about them slightly differently. So those are all the things that I know I need before I get paid again on the 11th. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the pen away and we're going to pick up our pencil because we could make changes. And until we finalize this at the end of the month, we'll do it all in pencil. So for emergency fund, we already have 200 set aside. And then for our vacation, we have 1,000. So we're going to take our total amount, which is $25.81, and we're going to subtract the 200. And then we're going to subtract the 1,000, which means we now have 1,381, the amount in our checking right now, to allocate to our different budgets items. So for the cell phone, it's $75. So I'm going to subtract $75, and that'll give me a running total of how much money I have left to budget. So I have 1,306. Now I have my bus pass, and that's $80. So I'm going to put $80 here, which leaves me $1,226. Now my rent is one of the bigger expenses I have, which is $950. So I'm going to subtract $950, which leaves me with $276. And then I have my utilities, which I estimate at $50. So I take away $50. And then I have my groceries. Now, I haven't bought groceries lately. I need to restock. So I'm going to put $200. So if I take away $200, that leaves me $26 for my birthday gifts. So I'm going to put that evenly, $13 each. So I minus 13, minus 13. I'm now at 0. And that means I've given every dollar that I have a job to do before my next budget. So that's great. And I look at my budget and I say, well, maybe I know for Mother's Day I'm going in with somebody and I've already agreed to a certain amount. So let's say I've agreed that my portion of this gift is $30. Well, if I take that's an extra $17. That means I have to find $17 somewhere else. So I have to subtract $17. And the only one I really have some flexibility in is in my groceries. 200 minus 17 means that I now have only $183 for groceries. And let's say the same thing for birthday. Let's say instead of $13, I need to put $20 here. So I change this to 20, which means I need to take $7 from somewhere else. Again, I can take it from groceries. 183 minus 7 means I now have $176. Okay, so that's now, if I were to add those all up, again, that would add up to $2,581. And that's how I'm going to budget. Now, how do I use that going forward? So I could, if I have this sheet with me, I could take it with me, check it, because the big thing now when you're budgeting is I don't want to look at these numbers here when I'm budgeting. I want to look over here in each of these expense categories or groups before I spend my money. So instead of going to the grocery store and saying, hey, I've got lots of money in here, I come in here and say, I have $176 to use towards my budget. So how can I manage that over time? So a lot of things that people will like to do is they use cash envelopes. So they will use envelopes and they can either stick the cash in there, or if you are in digital, whether you're using a credit card or a debit card, you could still use those, or you could use index cards to track your individual spending. You could also use a little book that you have it on, because now it's really important that you're tracking what you're spending. And so what I would do is groceries, right? So I have my groceries, and I would do very similar, but I would put a date on here. So this is the date that something happens. Activity, for what the activity is, whether it's the location you bought from or money adding to or from, and the amount and the balance, because you always want to have a running balance. It's not very helpful if I create this budget and then I don't use it to inform my spending. If you don't do that, you haven't really budgeted. So on here, I'm going to put 27/4, which is today, and I'm going to put the activity as the budget, and the amount that I've put in for groceries is 176, and that means the balance is 176. When I'm out and about, I'm going to look. So let's say a couple days later on the 29th, I go out and I go to Walmart and I buy my groceries and I spend $130. So now I have $46 left in my grocery budget. I can keep these cards with me. One thing that I've done is you could have it in a little, this is a pencil case from the dollar store. You can put all your cards in it. The nice benefit of it, as well as you get a receipt for an item, if you're not going to be able to put it on the card right away, put that in there, keep it with you, and then at the end of the day or in the morning, sit down, pull those receipts out, add them to your card so you're tracking them. Another really important thing as you're doing this is what happens when I've budgeted all these items out and something comes up that's not in my budget yet. No problem. What you're going to do is you're going to add that item onto your expenses. So let's say I decided that I'm going to eat out and I want to track that separately from my groceries so I can keep an eye out on how much I'm eating out and how much it's going to cost me. And let's say I decide that I want to take, again, I put $40 because I want to go out a couple of times or maybe one fancier one. So again, that money has to come from somewhere. I'm just going to move this out of the way. So this $40 has to come from somewhere. I'm going to pull it out of my groceries. So that means now my groceries has 136. So that is, I make this decision. This is why it becomes important to know your trackers as well. Because as you remember, I've spent some money here already. I've spent $46. So what I would do here, let's just say it's the 3rd of May. I'm going to write here that it's to, I'm going to write eat out. So I'm sending money to eating out so I can keep track of that. And I'm going to put $40, and that means I have $6 left in my grocery budget. So I mean, I'd have to make a decision on what I want to do. And then I would create the same thing. I would create an eating out card that tells me all of the same things. I put my date, the activity, amount, and the balance. And then I'm going to fill in that first line. And that first line will start on the date that I moved it over. So that's May 5th. And this time I'm going to tell it it's from grocery. That's $40. And that means I have $40. And then so when I go to spend, maybe the next day I decide I'm going to McDonald's and I am going to spend $12. I now have $28 left in that budget. If you're running with actual cash, you could do the same thing. You could set up your envelope, include your cash on it, write the category on the front, put your card in because you still want to track where your cash has gone. Put your cash in there. You could put your receipts right in there. And the same thing, you could keep all of this in your handy dandy case. And so between now and when you get paid next, you would just continue to monitor, keeping track of what you've spent against those budget. It's okay to move money from the different categories based on your needs. If you don't need to move money, that's fine. But if you do, don't feel bad or beat yourself up that you've moved money. So for example, like I said, we chose to move some money from groceries into these birthdays and Mother's Day's gift. We also chose to move money to eating out. Remember, a budget is a plan. Not everything goes to plan. So it's okay to move those things around. When you start doing it that way, you're then also working with intention. You're deliberately choosing to move money from groceries to eating out. I could have made the decision, hey, you know what, it's more important that I have fresh food at home. I can get more meals out of that money than I can eating out. Or, hey, it's important for me to eat out, support the local economy, whatever it may be for you. That is how you can start budgeting today without looking back and moving forward. So thanks for joining us for this video. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified of our next video. And don't forget, if you think somebody else could use these videos, please feel free to share and let them know about the Budget Mechanic. Until next time.